Excuse me. Alright, so let's get back into this. Had to stop and take some care of some things. But, you calm down. Be good. Don't misbehave. Be a good cat. Alright. Did you get an objection? The defense system explain that as well. There's only a trace amount of blood on the school banner. It must have been something else the killer used to oh. Well, I was going to say the other banner. The other banner. There's some other piece of fabric on top of the school banner. It's the governor's banner that had been specially made for the school concert. Since it's on top of the school banner, the blood would have hit it first. It could have easily absorbed most of the blood like a dishcloth, and only a small amount would have soaked through to the school banner below. So it makes total sense for the school banner to only have a little blood on it. Ugh. So that banner absorbed the blood like a dishcloth. Yes, that would explain it. The governor's banner was like a dishcloth. Surely it was at least towel quality. Simon, don't just stand there, do something!
Silence!
Sykes, Dodo, you are learning to wield a blade quite well. But how will you respond when I come slashing at you like this? A remnant of a large bloodstain was detected in the art room. But why would there be blood there if the murder occurred on the stage as you claim?
Objection!
The bloodstain in the art room was faked. How? I'll tell you how. All that was needed was something that could transport the blood upstairs. And that something was a piece of evidence we've just finished discussing. Killer used this to bring the victim's blood up to the art room. Garbage to this court. It's only garbage because someone tried to destroy it by tossing it in the incinerator. That someone was most likely the killer seeking to get rid of crucial evidence. The killer used the wire to bring the blood-soaked governor's banner to the art room. Then the blood was wiped onto the floor to complete the ruse. It makes perfect sense. Ah. Order. This is quite a development. To think the body was never actually moved. Hold it right there. The body must have been moved. How else do you explain that loud crash you heard during the mock trial? It wasn't caused by the body crashing into the statues, then what was it? Ugh, hadn't thought of that. If that loud crash wasn't the body hitting the statues, what was it indeed? The knot in the school banner shows that something was carried along the wire in it. So if that's true, I know what I have to find. Something that was in the art room before the murder and then on the stage after. Now that's pretty straightforward.
Take that!
That statue? Yes, I believe it was the statue that broke the other two, not Professor Court's body. The unique statue you see on the right, that's the pure white Lady Justice from earlier. Professor Court accidentally broke it while she was polishing it the day before the mock trial, but she used her own unique artistic sense and technique to repair it as you see here. Nobody would have guessed that it was originally Lady Justice.
Silence!
Perhaps you were onto something. But why, pray tell, would anyone move that scrap heap relic in such a tedious manner? Excellent questions, Simon. Keep them coming. You know why, but the fact that you won't acknowledge it shows how twisted you are. Lady Justice was moved during the mock trial. During that time, Professor Means was fabricating an alibi with his pre-recorded speech. If we consider the facts, then Lady Justice was moved in order to... Professor Means was trying to interrupt the mock trial. That must be the answer. Let me ask this. Why would the professor want to interrupt the... I object to how you always ask people questions like that. Okay. Maybe that wasn't it. I just had a thought. It involves a penalty for a certain smart alecky defense attorney. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I jumped the gun on that one. He's just fabricating an alibi with his pre-recorded speech. We consider the facts, and Lady Justice was moved in order to... The body wasn't hidden, so... Recorded speech to fake an alibi during the mock trial. He wanted to make it look like he couldn't possibly have moved the body. Moving Lady Justice was his way of pointing us to the body and cementing his alibi. It's quite a persuasive argument. For a while there, I thought you weren't taking the trial seriously. Well done. You should never underestimate me, Athena Sykes. Professor Means always means what he says and says what he means by all means. Fine then, say it already. I'm waiting. The murder occurred the night before. The body wasn't found until night the next day. Countless students passed the stage till they met in the lecture hall for the mock trial. So answer me this, why didn't anyone see the body that entire time? That can be explained by, the victim was murdered on the stage and left there. The body would inevitably have been discovered. And of course, there was nowhere to hide a body upon that stage. This is not good, Athena. Our claim is this close to being beaten to a pulp. I know, but we've come so far. Consider yourself schooled. Couldn't have possibly killed anyone. The killer is none other than Juniper Woods. It always has been and always will be. Just wait a minute. Poor Juniper. She must seriously regret having asked you to defend her. It adds insult to injury, you nearly had Hugh convicted for murder. Surely you haven't forgotten that little fiasco. Not only did you fail to defend your client, you also raised false charges against her friend. You have no right to call yourself a lawyer. This trial proceeds in the same manner and ends in the same way as the mock trial. Would you not lose everything you've worked so hard to gain? Well, I'll just have to make sure that doesn't happen, won't I? Tell me I've failed once again. Failed to save someone near and dear to me. I've worked so hard to become a lawyer, even studied psychology. Has it all been for naught? Am I just doomed to relive that all over again? Athena, what's wrong? Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Relax, Athena, breathe. It's not working. Everything's going dark. After all I've done, is this how it ends? Forgive me, Junie. I couldn't protect you like I said I would. You leave Athena alone, man. She's the one who saved me. It's because of Athena that I could stop hiding and start living my life as a girl again. She saved the friendship between Hugh, Juniper, and I. I think you're an awesome lawyer, Athena. One of the best. But I raised false charges against Hugh. And that's not all. I've done some seriously unforgivable things. What's the big deal? False charges are nothing to be scared of. And I'm not even mad at you. I should really be thanking you. You used legitimate means to expose my wrongdoings and give me a chance to re-examine what's important. But what does it matter if I can't save Juniper? I mean, the whole reason I've come so far is... It's not over yet, Dina. Even now, at this very moment, I still believe in you. Junie, I know you better than most people, Thena. I know you'd never surrender to the dark age of the law like the professor did. Thank you, Junie. But I feel like I can barely breathe. I don't know what to do.
Silence!
Stop your bleeding this instant. You look an utter fool. Prosecutor Blackwell? There is one who awaits you, is there not? And that is the reason you have studied so very hard. Are you prepared to give up on all you have worked for thus far? Would not do. To have you disappoint you-know-who. You're wasting your time. You have nothing on me. No evidence or anything else to establish my guilt. You are helpless before the might of lawyers for whom the ends justifies the means.
Objection!
Don't worry, Athena. You're doing fine. The truth will always win against people like him. But, Apollo, what am I supposed to do now? Listen, all you have to do is take a deep breath and look back over the entire case. If there's truth to be found, and there always is, you're sure to find it. Now let me see you smile. Remember that what Mr. Wright said? The worst of times are when lawyers have to force their biggest smiles. Thanks, everyone. You don't have to worry about me now. The worst of times when lawyers have to force their biggest smiles. Athena Sykes is psyched and ready to rock. Prepare for your utter defeat. Mr. Court wasn't killed in the art room. She was killed right where her body was found. We know because there wasn't any time to move the body there from somewhere else. Because the body had to have been hidden somewhere on stage until it was found. Let's think along these lines and see where it takes us. First up, where did Professor Means remove the body from its hiding place? Well, let's see. What was he doing right before the body was discovered? He's using the span of time his fake alibi created to move the body to where it would be more easily spotted. Therefore, the only time Mr. Professor Means could have removed the body from its hiding place is during the mock trial. During the mock trial, specifically during the speech, because that's when he could, that's the only time he could be there. He's moved the body to an easily seen location during his long pre-recorded speech. Mr. also moved something to stage that wasn't there before, specifically the white statue. In the mock trial, Professor Means wrapped the White Lady Justice in the school banner and sent it zipping down the stage with a crash, killing two birds with one stone. Drew attention to the body and made it look like the murder occurred in the art room. Was there anywhere to hide a body on that stage? Doesn't seem likely. No, there had to be someplace. Wait a second. How about something that should have been finished but was only mostly done? Covered the body up, but it didn't draw undue attention because it looked like it belonged in. He never actually finished the Phoenix Wright statue. Of course, because they were covered up, so no one would realize that it wasn't actually finished. Nobody ever saw the finished product. I think. Hold on. Was there ever a shot? Was there ever a shot of the actual finished product? I don't think there was. Yeah, we don't have a good shot of the stage. But I don't think there was. Mr. Wright statue's never... Yeah. Wrapped under some cloth, the hide was really inside, cleverly disguising it as the boss's statue. As Newman gave up on the Wright statue, yet Professor Means finished it in a single night. Yes, what an impressive feat that was. Yeah. No, his so-called work of art deserves none of our praise. That's because it was only a facade to hide his real work. The murder of Professor Court. Come again? I'm afraid I don't follow. He hid the body by making it look like the statue of Mr. Wright. With the body wrapped under a piece of cloth, it just looks just like a statue. Second that what? Now this is getting interesting. No, this is getting preposterous. How would such a thing even be possible? We'll never know until we try. Uh-oh. I think I know where this is going. Okay, Apollo, time to turn me into a reasonable likeness of Mr. Wright. I'm going to pose like the statue, like so. Now I want you to wrap me up in a cloth so that I look like a statue. I hate to ask the obvious, but where am I supposed to get this magical cloth? I'm afraid that isn't the right color, Mr. Justice. Well, given how sudden the request was, it's kind of the best I could do, Your Honor. Alright, I think that about does it. Well, what do you think, everyone? Do I look like a statue of Mr. Wright, or what? Looks like some random person to me. Weren't the statues a pair of busts? Phoenix Wright has that spiky hair on the back of his head. Forget the hair. The statue's head is way bigger than your average person's anyway. You gotta hand it to me for trying anyway. Wait, that's it. The hands. Her arms are raised over her head and they're a dark bruise. Right. The professor was probably tied up with something. The marks on her wrist indicated she'd been tied up. Apollo, tie me up in a new pose. Wait, you're not into this kind of thing, are you? What? No! Besides, it was your idea! Just tell me how to tie your hands already. Professor Court's wrists were tied together, and I can't help but think that's related. How should I arrange myself to match the shape I want, given her hands were tied? Well, not this one. I mean, it was the way it was kind of arranged. It seemed it was more like behind the head. Okay, that wasn't what I was going for, but sure. The statue's arm. You can't exactly complete the pose. Yeah, it would be awfully hard to make the ejection pose like this. I don't think you've forgotten something, Athena. Something on the body that you don't have right now. The victim's body have that I don't. So that's where that comes into play. Oh right, there's an arrow sticking out of her side. Is there something else that I've forgot to... hasn't come up yet? Although I guess that one was mentioned, it just... eh. And he just burned that one. Take that and plunge it into my side. Are you crazy? Fine, then go get some duct tape. Rapido, schnell. Alright, I don't need to know other languages to know bossy when I hear it. The fatal arrow to the side. Spiky hair created from 2 hands. Masterpiece in the making. Now cover me with that cloth. Remember to make the arrows stand out, okay? This trial wasn't that wacky. Until the end. The arm's too short. Shh, remember your inner voice, dear. Nobody's buying it. The arrow's nowhere near long enough. But what else could you use for the arm? Still won't give up, eh? Must commend you, if only for your spirit and determination. Of course she's not giving up. After all she's put me through, she owes me an explanation, one that makes sense. Now, disappoint me again and the penalty will be doubly painful. I guess I get it right this time. Think, Athena, think. Professor Court was murdered when she stopped by the stage to see Professor Means. It wasn't premeditated. He must have used something close at hand in his little ruse. Show me the stage setup photos again. Like that? Right now? Okay, hold on. Please be in this photo. It just has to be. Arm on the right, Mr. Right statue is really this right here. I mean, if he didn't have his staff with him, the only other thing that could work is this right here.
Take that!
Mr. Wright's own appendage. This right here? Mr. Wright's not gonna like this. Never mind. I retract my previous statement. I won't retract your penalty. Sakura Blue. Something longer than an arrow that pierced her body. Must be here somewhere. Oh, longer than an arrow that pierced her body. The only other thing I can think of is maybe this thing? Used for the arm of the statue of Mr. Wright. It's absurd. There's no such thing in this photo. Don't play dumb with me, Professor. It's the staff you have right there. Staff? This is the spear of a great... Buddy! Don't dig your own grave like that. Length is perfect. Mr. Wright couldn't possibly eject such an awesome arm. Okay, go for it, Paula.
Objection!
Oh boy. It's Phoenix Wright! Look, it's that famous lawyer! That's definitely him. I know that pose anywhere. We did it, didn't we? Haha. Well, am I not the spitting image of the legendary Phoenix Wright? The man who will bring us out of these dark ages and into an era... Okay, laying it all a little thick there. Golden light, all I see before me is the pink specter of a man. Huh. That's just because Mr. Wright likes his statue. He's positively tickled pink. Get it, Apollo? He's tickled pink. Blah, that joke deserves a pink slip. It seems the gallery is quite impressed with the defense's sharp thinking. The witness? Bah, the resemblance is nothing more than a coincidence. Not so fast there, Buster. Fortunately for you, I can prove my theory to be more than mere coincidence. To prove that this spear was thrust in the victim, all I have to do is... test the spear for blood? I mean, we've already said if it's both, the prints are not going to make a difference. because it'd be way too easy to wipe them off. But the blood could have also been cleaned off? These could have been too easy to clean. These he almost certainly would have cleaned them up. You know nothing, little girl. What's that supposed to mean? Spears are far more dashing than staves. This is all very interesting. It has little, if anything, to do with the issue at hand now. Alright, well... try it again. Prints are definitely not going to work because he's been handling it the whole time. We assume the victim's jagged wound came from the arrow being forcibly shoved in. If the wound was from the spear instead, we should be able to detect traces of the victim's blood on it. Your Honor, a brief recess, if you will. By any means possible, what if I get rid of my spear? Wait, what if I burn it? If I do that, I'll be found innocent. Yes, I'm innocent, I tell you. Surely you don't expect us to take lectures from you now. Now I ask you in the gallery. Help me decide the professor's fate. It's the Gaviners, G. Prosecutor Blackwell, what has become of our witness Aristotle Means? It is as Sykes-Stono suspected. Blood was detected on his... Wow, he really didn't bother to thoroughly clean it off. What a fool. Did he... I guess he really didn't think anyone would get this far. Submitted to this heinous crime. All of it. He shall join us in the clink tomorrow. His teaching skills can be put to good use there. Great, he'll teach felons the end justifies the means, so much for rehabilitation. Ask what the professor's motive was. Could barely make out a word he said on account of his shattered teeth. Well, his teeth actually shattered. And Blackwell's fellow inmates was once a surgeon. Why not a former dentist, too? Eventually I had him put pen to paper. Turns out Professor Means was the one taking bribes. The victim had suspected him after a report from the class snitch. That led her to question him at length the day of the killing, right there on that stage. The result, the heinous crime that was brought before this court. The fool, like Newman, had come to know of the script's contents via the victim's note. It seems he came up with a plan to stab the victim with her own awl in order to make the killing look like the one in the script and thus frame the defendant. That scrap of paper with Hugh's name had the same mark as Professor Court's planner. Yes, about that. Those planners are bestowed upon all the students graduating at the top of their class. Really? So then... Indeed, once upon a time, Professor Means was also awarded the same note. Ah, it's his handwriting. This, too, was evidence of the bribery scheme that the victim had obtained. Constance Court was clean, and that only Aristotle Means took the bribes. To think a professor would murder a colleague, then try to pin it on a student. This is the dark age of the law, and we can only hope that a brighter future awaits. And the first step is to hand down my verdict for a promising young lady. This court finds the defendant, Juniper Woods, I wish you all the best on your road to becoming a courtroom judge. We'll need young people like you if we ever hope to restore the law to its former glory. Yes, Your Honor, I'll work as hard as I can. Maybe one day I'll be able to work with all of you to make a difference. Proudly serve Professor Court's memory. Do not let her death be in vain. It's the last thing I expected to hear from him today. Court is adjourned. October 26th, District Court. Thank you, Thena. Really mean it. Nothing really. You take the biggest tangled mess of a case and unravel it just like that. I don't know. You look pretty wound up there at the end, literally and figuratively. Look pretty hungry for a knuckle sandwich, Buster. I wanted to thank you too, Paulo. Haha, don't mention it. The way you were always there for Thena when she was in a bind. And at the detention center, where your smile gave me hope when there was none. It was like warm rays of sun shining down on peaceful woodlands. Oh, and that's where this starts. I think you're an absolutely amazing person. Thanks, Juniper. It means a lot to me. But I still have lots of work to do, and I can't wait until we see you on the judge's bench. I promise you I'll get there someday. That's why, until that day... Guys, I've got some big news. I mean, this is huge. Oh, am I interrupting something? No, it's okay, I think. So, what's the big news? The school festival. It's supposed to have been canceled after what happened, but... we just got a call. In memory of Professor Constance Court, who worked so hard to make it happen. The festival is being extended an extra day until tomorrow. Really? Alright.
We've got a special treat for all of you. A love letter for Themis Legal Academy. Achtung, baby. It's time for the Guitar Serenade.
I was gonna say, I doubt we'll actually have someone singing it. So, who's gonna teach classes now? It's so much fun. School festivals are amazing. I think you and Robin are getting a little carried away. Ah, your singing voice, Juniper, could melt my G-A-R-T. Mr. Wright, thank you for that training seminar. Just remember, the objection posed is all about attitude. It's not the important part. Well, congrats on your mock trial win, although Robin had you for a while there. I did, didn't I? I'm just glad we're back to how it used to be, thanks to Athena. And you know what? I think I'll stick with becoming a prosecutor after all. I'm going to make up for my mock trial loss by winning the real deals in court. Mock trial loss? What loss? Wait, did they reprise the trial and you won? Lawyer course genius and hot-blooded prosecutor course student will go head-to-head in a mock trial battle for the She-Devil's Black Heart. So, does this mean it's really gonna happen? Juniper, something I've been wanting to say to you. Huh? Is he going to do what I think he is? Juniper, can we still be friends? You know, best friends like we've always been. Best friends? You, weren't you going to profess your love for Juniper if you won the mock trial? No, I was going to confess that I'm not a genius and that I'm really 25 years old. She already dragged it out of me during the trial. Fair enough, you know, that was a thing. Whoops. Listen, Hugh. You too, Robin. Miriam. Me too? Miriam's got this tactical espionage action stuff down to a science. I've been thinking. It's up to us to put an end to the dark age of the law if we can. Let's all work together to usher in a new age where winning only results from the truth. And the end never justifies the means. Count me in. I wouldn't have it any other way. Best friends forever, huh? No matter what anyone says, nothing beats true friendship. You bet. And what about your BFF, Apollo? Aren't you a bit old to be using that word? But yeah, he's the best friend a guy could have. Which reminds me, we're supposed to meet up and gossip about the new girl in the office. Hey, no talking about me behind my back. So what kind of guy is he anyway? Well, if I had to describe him in one word. And so, after some slight arm twisting, Apollo promised to bring me to meet his friend. Unfortunately, that promise was never meant to be fulfilled. For not long after, their friendship was mercilessly severed by fate. And the bonds between us began to fray and unravel as well. Sorry, but I'll be taking a leave of absence. Even now, those words continue to ring in my ears. The discord in our ever-cheerful Apollo's voice made him sound so cold and distant. Why, Apollo? Why? Why would you leave us all behind? Well, it sounds like we're going to be getting into that on the next case. Well, barely got started here. I guess we can keep going. The courtroom bombing incident, a terrible attack launched by the will of a madman. That incident perfectly symbolized the state of the legal world in this dark age of the law. Mr. Wright brought it to a resolution of sorts. Ted Tenate was discovered to be the one responsible for the bombing. If only it were that simple. Somehow, I can't help but think that there's a darker influence at work, one that's lurking in the shadows, waiting. That's why I want to review the trial that was taking place when the bombing occurred. After all, I've got more than a few personal stakes in it. Okay. So,
One hour remaining until launch. Please begin your final equipment check.
Check complete. Everything's A-okay. We're ready here whenever you are.
Come in at 2. Come in. Do you copy?
time for another trial to begin. This one is different. Sorry to bother you, but... Are you alright, Apollo? Was I making a scary face just now? Oh, hi, Juniper. Yes, I'm fine. I was just doing my cords of steel exercises. Now I'm all ready to go. Yes, knowing you, I'm sure you will be just fine. Oh, I brought you a present from my garden. This a lotus root? That's right. My grandma says lotus root is good for your eyes. She even says that if you look through the holes, it can help you see into the future. It's for good luck. Maybe later you can cook it. Thanks for this. I'm gonna have some right now. Oh my. Crunch. Kinda tough though. You can't eat it raw, but thank you for the enthusiastic try. Oops, if she didn't think me weird before, she will now. I've gotta calm down. Apollo, I'm sorry I'm late. Hi, Athena. Junie, I didn't know you were coming today. Did you come to cheer Apollo on? Oh, I get it. You sly little thing, you. Haha. Athena, stop. Quit kidding around, Athena. The trial's about to start any second. Is everything all set? Oh, Apollo, Apollo. When will you ever figure it out? Figure out what? Wow, that was the longest sigh I've ever heard. This is it. It's all over for me. They're gonna find me guilty. This is our client, one Mr. Solomon Saul Starbuck. He's a very famous astronaut who happens to be an acquaintance of mine. Oh, this is the, this is his buddy? Huh. You wouldn't know it right now, but he's usually a very upbeat and driven person. The scene of the crime this time happened to be the Cosmos Space Center. Back in high school, my best friend and I were there almost a little too much. Wow, his head is literally shaped like a rocket. Great. Oh boy. Oh, so he's not the friend. Huh. So that's where we met Mr. Starbuck. He'd ask about space travel, he'd launch into story after story with so much passion. Back in those days, the man was 100% my hero. Are you sure you're okay with being my lawyer, Apollo? Of course I'm sure. I know you, Mr. Starbuck. I know you're not the type to commit murder. Thanks, but... I'm supposed to be in space right about now. Okay, buddy, you gotta stop it with the long sighs. He's so depressed it almost seems like an act. The launch getting called off must have been a huge shock. He'll probably never get the chance to go into space again. Don't say that. Don't stop believing. Besides, you just have to go into space again. Yeah, I don't think I could face Clay in the afterlife if I just rotted away in a cell. Clay Terran, I can't believe he was murdered. I mean, he was such a promising astronaut under your command. Yeah, he was a good guy, always there to pick me up when I was down. No one loved life as much as him, that's for sure. He was always so full of energy, telling me, "You're fine, Mr. Starbuck." Aww. I wonder where he picked up that from. Or maybe that's who Apollo picked it up from. I've never seen Mr. Starbuck so down. Clay's gone, and I'm going to prison. I wish I could burn up like a shooting star right now. Mr. Starbuck, you'll be fine. Ah, well, what is it? What's with the yelling? We'll get to the bottom of this today, you'll see. In exchange, I want you to go back into space for you and Clay. Promise? Does that mean you have lots of evidence to prove my innocence? Oh, well, about that. We didn't get to investigate the area as much as I'd have liked, thanks to the police. I'm done for. I'm a goner. Everybody thinks I did it. Thought I was gonna soar like a comet. I'm just gonna crash like a meteorite. No, don't say that, Mr. Starbuck. Don't count yourself out yet. I know it's hard to lose a teammate, but you've got to keep going. And what about you, Apollo? What about me? I was just thinking, wasn't Clay your best friend? We need to focus on the trial right now. Are you all ready to go? Apollo. Yeah, he's sucking it down. Trying to stay calm, but... The trial's about to begin. If the defense would please proceed in the courtroom. Okay, here we go. This is it. This is one trial I can't afford to lose. For Clay's sake and our clients, I will find Clay's killer. Oh, we actually already have a list of, interesting. December 16th, 9:55 a.m. District Court. Courtroom number 4. The court is now in session for the trial of Solomon Starr. We're just going right into it. Huh. I thought the eye injury was from the explosion. Defense is ready, Your Honor. Excuse me, Mr. Justice. Yes, Your Honor? What happened to your eye? Fine, the defense is ready, Your Honor. Are you sure? I don't... Fine, Your Honor. The defense is ready. I'm sorry, Your Honor. He's been like this since yesterday. Keeps insisting it's just a sty. I suppose it's something he doesn't want to discuss. He's entering a touchy age. Very well. The prosecution? The prosecution appears to be ready as well.
Silence!
Not yet. I'm not quite ready yet. He's just doing it right off the bat this time. The prosecution is now ready. Well, it didn't take him long this time. What's up with Blackwell? Now then, I shall give the opening statement.
Silence!
I'll do it. You will? What an unexpected surprise. This time I can't leave it to anyone else. I see. Something is off with the two of you today. You both seem different somehow. Very well, Prosecutor Blackwell. Your opening statement, if you would. It was just yesterday. The crimes in question occurred at the Cosmos Space Center. That famous federal research facility of all things related to astrology, right? Astronomy. It's astronomy. Anyway, a rocket was set to launch from there. But at 9:28 a.m., before they could even move the rocket to the launch site, two explosive devices were detonated, and the launch was cancelled. My word, 2 bombs? How dreadful. The defendant in today's trial is charged with both the bombing and with murder. One Mr. Solomon Starbuck. For whatever inane reason, he detonated a bomb on the rocket he himself would be in. Solomon Starbuck? I recognize that name. Isn't he that famous astronaut? Correct your baldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of that HAT-1 rocket 7 years ago. As you may recall, despite some interstellar trouble, his mission was a success. Some say it was a miracle he returned alive. Suppose you could say he's a living legend. Oh, I remember now. He's become something of an international celebrity, right? They even turned that incident into a movie and everything. Got a real space pioneer in court today. Oof, but even heroes tumble from the lofty heights. Returning to the subject at hand. Ah, yes, the victim was one Mr. Clay Terran, a subordinate of the defendant. Indeed, a loyal disciple brutally stabbed to death by his mentor. Stabbed to death, you say? You mean his death wasn't a result of the bombing? Correct. Despite his lofty dreams, the victim was seen as an interloper by the defendant, and so he was sent not into space, but to the universe which we mortals cannot see. Clay... I think I've heard enough. The case seems pretty clear-cut at this point. However, there's one thing I'm curious about. That metal box next to the witness stand. What purpose does it serve exactly? So, if I'm seeing this, if I'm remembering this correctly, this currently has a body in it. Since you asked so nicely, it's your coffin. Ah, have mercy on me. I jest. It's evidence. Due to its immense size, we've little choice but to lay it where it rests now. We shall get to the contents of the box in due time. Phew, I feel like I just lost 50 years off my life. Does he even have 50 years left? Inner monologue, Athena, inner monologue. Enough jabbering. Bobby Fulbright's the name, and justice we trust. Ah, Detective Fulbright. Very well then. Please explain the details of this incident to the court, if you would. First, take a look at this pamphlet from the Cosmos Space Center. I think you'll find a diagram outlining the overall layout of the Space Center. Here we are. For a more detailed look at what's on the left side of this building, take a look at this cross-section that we, the police, have created. Okay. Lower level, middle level, ladder, upper level. Okay. See the launch pad in the main building. The launch pad is the square building, and the rounded structure is the main building, right? You got it. The incidents took place in launch pad 1, the main building's lounge. I'll be using this diagram during my testimony. It'll make it easier to understand. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom! Boom! One on the second floor of the Space Center's main building, and one in Launch Pad 1. Huh. Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were in Launch Pad 1 at the time. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death. A murder on top of a bombing. Detective, the victim was already dead by the time you arrived at the lounge, correct? Yep. Thinking he'd sabotaged the bombing, the defendant killed him right there in the rocket. And then carried him all the way there? Look at this tragic photo. It's the knife that ended this young man's dreams. Couldn't get any prints off of it, though, because the defendant was in a spacesuit. By the way, Detective Fulbright. Oh, hey. I don't know if that's... Yeah. Yeah, I hope that stuff was going well. Why are the victim's helmet and right glove absent in this photograph? I had to remove them to identify him, Your Honor. Personally removed his glove during the investigation. I had to get his fingerprints to confirm his identity, after all. Yes, it would be very difficult to identify him without a face or fingerprints. Now there's just one more thing I'd like to inquire about. What is this round thing next to the victim in this photo? Something so important to the victim he took it with him as he escaped the launch pad. A capsule that apparently contains asteroid samples. While obviously valuable for research purposes, it has no relation to this case. We'll see. Nice! Is there like an overall goal, or are you just gonna keep going until it ends? Of course, it's gonna keep going through the end of it. I was just wondering if there was a specific goal they had in mind. So we know that the bomb in the main building was on the second floor. Ah, cool. Well, best of luck. Hope they managed to get to it. But where was the bomb that was in Launchpad 1 located? Oh, wow, yeah, you guys got the rest of the weekend? Oh, yeah, probably a good chance of making it then. Yeah, that one was on the rocket itself. Situated around the central part of the rocket. Apparently, the area around the launch pad's elevator was a sea of flames. I'd like to submit this diagram report into the record. The trial's just started and we're already in a bind. You get used to it. Besides, that's what cross-examination is for, right? The 2 astronauts were doing during the bombing, that'll be the key. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. It'd be good to know if they went off at exactly the same time, or also how powerful they were, I guess. The one in the main building wasn't strong enough to bring the place down, but the room it went off in was burned black. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Due in large part, of course, to me stepping up to lead the evacuation. Wait, what were you doing there in the first place, Detective Fulbright? I'm Bobby Fulbright, hero of justice. I'll be there wherever and whenever people need my help. I'd go to the other side of the world, or even the edge of the universe. Not sure he knows how far that actually is, but I guess I'll leave that one alone. Admirable decision, Justice Dono. Huh? Yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. I kind of thought they would keep the investigator from the previous game, but because the first 3 games, the police or the detective representative was usually the same guy, and then they changed when the new trilogy started. But now, now we're using, I guess maybe because of the 3D, I don't know, or I guess because he's partnered with the prosecutor or something. But yeah, he's certainly a guy. If you see him when he shows up in any of the previous cases, it's something else. Anyway, could you describe what it was like at the space? Okay. Bomb cut the power to the central bank of elevators in the 3rd floor lounge. It's pitch black in there, I tell you. However, the security cameras and whatnot were running on emergency backup. How did the evacuation go? I immediately and heroically whisked people down to the Space Center's basement shelter. The basement shelter? Yes, there's an emergency shelter beneath the Space Center. Emergency shelter, huh? Oh, here it is. It's the bottom of the diagram. The Space Center's pretty impressive to have its own shelter. Power outage and evacuation seem unrelated to the murder at this point. I guess I'll leave that aside for now. So there were 2 explosions in total, correct? Yep, that's right.
Hold it!
Get this straight. Mr. Starbuck rigged a rocket he was going to board with explosives? Huh? What are you talking about? If the defendant really did plant the bomb in his own rocket, he'd get caught in the explosion as well. Hadn't thought... What do you mean you hadn't thought of that? Fine. A simpleton for a simpleton. Fulbright. The motive. Understood. The defendant actually had astrophobia. Astrophobia? What's that? A fear of space, naturally. Just the thought of space can cause the afflicted to freeze up. And so, in his terror, the defendant found a way to stop the launch at the last minute. That's not something you do at the last minute. Also, why wouldn't he just not get on the launch? That's absurd. Fortunately for you, we have evidence. Take a look at these. What are they? These anti-anxiety tablets were found among the defendants. Okay, anti-anxiety tablets does not mean he's going to bomb his own rocket. He's taking them in secret to quell his fears. There were a multitude of problems with the rocket Mr. Starbuck rode 7 years ago. Rumor has it threatened to crash a number of times as well. That was, of course, very traumatic for Mr. Starbuck.
Objection!
But that doesn't mean he'd go so far to blow up his own ship.
Silence!
The defendant couldn't bear to mar his good name. Now, I feel like there are less crazy ways to get out of this than bombing your own ship. Okay, lurk away. Don't worry. I have the media branded himself Starbuck, Space Pioneer Extraordinaire. In these conditions, the defendant could hardly run away like some big smut. What, so that's why you think he resorted to the bombing? Naturally, he constructed this act of sabotage in an attempt to blow up the space. Yeah. It's like, anxiety doesn't turn you into a bomber. That's ridiculous. Like, okay, even if he'd wanted to sabotage it, he didn't have to blow it up. He could have just done it in some other way. Which effectively aborted the launch, but spares reputation. Now, I'm sure you understand why you have to bring justice down on this atrocious criminal. Oh, whatever.
Hold it!
Are you sure it was only the two of them? It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those two. Well, there could have been somebody else inside that rocket.
Silence!
The notion of a third party in Launchpad 1 is utterly absurd. Just to enter the area from the lounge, one must pass through a door guarded by a fingerprint recognition device. And allow me to state up front that there are precious few with the clearance to do so. That's not zero. This futuristic complex is a space center. Actually, it's not as amazing as you think, Your Honor. Take a look at this photo. This is the door in the lounge with the fingerprint lock. Only personnel whose fingerprints are registered can pass through. I see, that is very different from what I had in mind. And here's the record of the number of people that passed through that door yesterday. Yes, there are only three. The defendant, the victim, and the director of the Space Center, Yuri Cosmos. Wow, what a name for the director of a space center. Doesn't that mean it's possible the director is the one who did it? Not a chance. He was in the main building when the bombs exploded at 9:28, doing his job directing the launch. Besides having an alibi, he has no motive for committing these senseless acts. He has a point. I guess the director can't be considered a suspect. Okay. We're assuming that the person who did the bombing and the person who did the murder are the same person. So, making a lot of assumptions here. Also, what if somebody tailgated?
Hold it!
So while it appeared that the pair barely escaped with their lives, in actuality, one of them had already been murdered inside the rocket. That's the angle the prosecution wants to push, correct? You got it. In fact, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. the victim had been alive, he would have for sure tried to stop the bombing. Is there any chance Mr. Terran could have been killed before he boarded the rocket? They were both alive and well at boarding time and embarked on their own power. Their hearts full of hopes and dreams of space. And then both their hopes and dreams were dashed. May continue my explanation. After the evacuation order was given, the defendant made his escape, carrying the victim to make it look like a rescue. But after the escape, one of the two was found stabbed to death.
Hold it!
And who was the first to find the victim? Actually, there were two of them. Space Center Director, Yuri Cosmos, and Detective Candace Arm. Hello. One of them was a detective. Yup, Detective Arm specializes in bombings, you see. She and the director were ordering the evacuation following the explosions. They were also worried about the astronauts, so they hurried over the boarding lounge. That's when they discovered the victim along with the defendant. Two witnesses, huh? And one of them is a detective. I doubt either one would have anything to say that would help me. I think that pretty much covers the details of the case. Only the victim and the defendant were on the launch pad when the former was killed. This is the truth, and only Mr. Starbuck could have carried out this crime. Okay. Let's say for a moment that he really did set up this bombing. Why would he not, instead of stabbing the guy and dragging him back, why not just throw him into the fire of the explosion instead? Like, that would be way less effort. You could just, oh no, he blew up. How terrible. Instead of, oh no, this guy that could have only been stabbed by me was dragged into this room and dropped here unceremoniously where everyone would find him. Little I could get out of him only hurt my case. Justice Dono, foolish is the warrior who rushes headlong into battle. Preparation is an essential element of battle, so I advise you to take a gander at this. What is it? Footage from a security camera. The two astronauts emerged from the bowels of Launchpad 1 corridor. The boarding lounge security camera captured their desperate escape. Now I would direct your attention to what the defendant is shouldering, which you can see is none other than the lifeless body of the victim. I don't see a knife in him. If he's lifeless, he should be, like, stabbed, unless something else killed him. Also, it's a security camera. It should have more than just a photograph. This lines up exactly what the prosecution has been asserting. Should have known Blackwell would have something like this ready. Yeah, that's all we can see. Okay. That's... Whoa. How exactly they determined that Clay was already gone in that footage? I see what you mean. Whether Clay was still alive at that point is pretty crucial. Your Honor, please take another look at the footage. Is it possible that Mr. Terran was still alive here and that Mr. Starbuck was helping him? I believe you're right. One man carrying the other to safety. What a beautiful expression of friendship.
Silence!
Perhaps that's what it looks like to a one-eyed hothead and a dotard. It can only make sense if it's the victim's dead body. What do you mean? Fulbright, explain it to Justice Dono. You got it. Ready, kid? If the murder occurred in the lounge, someone could have spotted it. Anyone can enter the lounge, after all. But doing it while they were alone in the spaceship? That's a horse of a different color.
Objection!
But you can't deny that there's a possibility the murder could have happened in the lounge. All that video shows is a man helping his fellow astronaut out.
Silence!
Your assertion is based on emotion. No, it's not. It's based on the fact that security cameras record footage. It's based on your belief that Mr. Starbuck would surely help his own disciple, but you have no logical explanation as to why the victim could still be alive. Just get the rest of the camera footage and this will be resolved in like 2 minutes. Mr. Justice, if you... I think if I have one complaint about this game so far is there's too many... It seems like there are too many situations where, like, the actual truth should not have been this difficult to discern. Like, the fact that the security camera only took one photograph instead of any kind of continuous video. Like, what? There's just been too many of those like that. Objections? Well,
Hold it!
Your Honor, the defense requests a little time to think and regroup. Given the facts, I'm not sure I see the need. What is it, Athena? It's just... there's something that's been bothering me. If it isn't the defense stalling for time, as always. Very well, I'm feeling generous. You may have a small measure of time. You have 5 seconds. 5 seconds? After that, I declare this cross-examination to be closed and a verdict to be rendered. Your baldness, raise your gavel high. It's time for a countdown. Oh. Ready? I don't have time. Spit it out, Athena. Only 3 more seconds. Look, I don't think the prosecution's explanation is very complete. Meaning? Meaning there's something missing. Like they conveniently left it unexplained. They didn't explain. Something they didn't explain. Ah, you're right. I think I know what you're talking about. Your 5 seconds are up, Mr. Justice. Is there anything about the prosecution's argument that you'd like to rebut? Yes, Your Honor. Actually, there is. There's something the prosecution has yet to make clear to this court. Well, if you put it that way, as that the prosecution has failed to explain. I mean, I guess it's why the body was moved, because, like I said, why not just let him die in the explosion? It failed to explain why Mr. Starbuck would bother bringing the body back at all. The defendant wanted to kill the victim. Why didn't he just leave his body in the rocket? Why go through the trouble of bringing him all the way back to the boarding lounge? It's true. I don't think we've heard the prosecution's thoughts on that yet. It's because they have none, Your Honor. After all, how does one explain something so illogical? The prosecution is claiming the defendant moved the victim's dead body. But what if the entire premise of that argument is wrong? Let's hear your theory, Mr. Justice. The defense proposes the defendant didn't kill the victim. He was helping him. Fulbright, explain it for our sad friend here before I nod off to his monotone monologue. Inform me exactly why Spaceboy moved the victim. Huh? They've got to be joking. It's simple. Mr. Starbuck did what he did to direct suspicion away from... What do you mean suspicion away from himself? He wanted a great impression he heroically risked his life to save... So there'd be... Listen to yourself. He wanted to create the impression he heroically risked his life to save his partner. That's why he made it sure to make it to the security cameras so there'd be a record. But if he killed him by stabbing him, bringing him in front of the security camera would just show him being stabbed. That doesn't make any sense. At the very least, he appears to have achieved success with you and the old man. The average person wearing a spacesuit weighs easily over 200 pounds. Saving the life of a partner who weighs as much while trying to escape deadly flames, what a dramatic sob story fit for the silver screen. Indeed, I was completely taken. You see, yet the true ending is that all traces of his hammy act were meant to be blown up. Yes, and now we arrive at the thrilling conclusion. The third explosion. What?
Objection!
What are you talking about? There was no third explosion.
Silence!
Indeed, you are correct. But that is thanks to Detective Arm. It was she who identified and secured the bomb. However, it doesn't change the fact that the third bomb was discovered in the lounge. Steel coffin beside the witness stand. That would be a bomb transport case. We use that to transport the deactivated bomb here. It's found in the lounge. A bomb in the form of a most distasteful toy. What? One on the second floor of the main building, one on the launch pad, and one in the lounge. Wait, hold on. So you're saying that he carried a dead body out of the flames and into another room with a bomb in it? Why would he go into the lounge if there was going to be an explosion there? Why would he not just be like, I gotta stop here? Why would he carry it in the first place if it's got a knife in it? This does not make any sense. Set off 3 firework displays. Fortunately, the third was discovered before it could be detonated, for it had not. The victim's body and other vital evidence would surely have been immolated.
Objection!
Before you utter a word, know that the evidence supports me. It's like he's reading my mind. As it is still undergoing forensic investigation, I do not have the evidence on hand. However, know that a peculiar item was found in one of Mr. Starbuck's pockets. Specifically, a bomb detonation switch. You found what? I suspect the defendant had no time to destroy such damning evidence when the Space Center director and Detective Arms stumbled across the murder. So he thought to hide it in his pocket. In his pocket. Really? Justice Donut, open your eyes and see the truth. This appears to be irrefutable evidence that the accused set off the No, it isn't. What? It's insane. You'll believe in your client, come what may? Then why don't you cross-examine the defendant himself? This has got to be a trap. It's like Blackwell's controlling the entire game. Yeah, it seemed like he was waiting for me to bring up the body-moving issue. Why do you say that? Because he had just the right argument when I pointed it out. And to really rub it in, he had a decisive piece of evidence up his sleeve, too. He was trying to shake my faith in Mr. Starbuck and break me down. And making you cross-examine Mr. Starbuck at this point was part of his plan, too? Totally underhanded, but I wouldn't expect anything less from him. Now, let us hear from the arch-villain, the fiendish murderer himself, famed astronaut Solomon Starbuck. Witness, your name and occupation, please. Solomon Starbuck, astronaut. How did this happen? Mr. Starbuck, you aren't looking very well. Will you be able to give testimony? No. Well, unfortunately, no is not an option. You are being accused of the Space Center bombing and the murder of Clay Terran. Please testify to these allegations. Mind if I take this suit off? It's getting really heavy.
Silence!
It's not the weight of the suit that you feel, but of your sins. Prepare to carry that weight for the rest of your life. Banish me to the moon. I don't care anymore. Wow, that was super negative. Is he going to be alright up there? He'll be fine, I think. As long as he doesn't totally give up and say he did it, that is. Is he about to totally give up and say that he did it? All I did was support Clay over my shoulder and get us off out of the rocket. Like always, I took the elevator down to the middle level. The elevator down to the middle level and headed for the corridor. Clay had passed out by the time we got the order to evacuate. I didn't kill Clay, I was trying to save him. Sir, you didn't set off the bombs or murder the victim. I bet you think I'm lying, right? Reserve all judgment until after I've heard your full testimony. I'm sure you don't believe me. I bet you don't even believe I'm an astronaut. I don't think the judge doubts that. I'd wear a suit like that except an astronaut. I will say that when I saw you in that movie, you appeared quite courageous, though I suppose reality never quite lives up to fantasy. I guess I'm just a big disappointment. Ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha. I really don't care what happens anymore. Ha ha ha. Oh, he's completely given up. What a depressing fellow. If you were to join me in the clink, I imagine that annoying sighing of yours would rub off on the other inmates. Like how it rubbed off on Prosecutor Blackquill a second ago? Huh? That was Blackquill sighing? Mr. Starbuck's testimony contains a glaring contradiction. The question is, what does it mean? Even if Mr. Starbuck is my client, I can't be gun-shy now. It's time to find out the truth.
Hold it!
So what you're saying is, the victim was still alive at that time. Of course, he was alive and well.
Silence!
If so, then you admit you took a man who was alive and well, and silenced him permanently with this. What? No! Ah! Black hole confirmed, dead ahead. Ah, it's no good, Captain. I'm getting sucked in.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, you are not in space. Please give your testimony seriously. It was just nerves, but maybe I shouldn't have said he was alive and well. It was more like he was slumped over. Those are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Like always, I took the elevator down to the middle level and headed for the corridor.
Hold it!
Isn't that the elevator inside the launch pad area? That's right, we always use it to get to and from the cockpit. Makes sense, so he was just using the route he always used, in spite of the fact that there had just been an explosion? Huh? I think Mr. Starbuck is hiding something. Something pretty big. Yeah, like if it knocked out the power or anything, the elevator's probably not gonna work.
Hold it!
Passed out? Why was he passed out? Probably because of the explosion. The noise and vibration were incredible. It's a little wonder a person would pass out, right? I guess. Not that I know. Ah! Been hit by space debris. The main engine's on fire. It's gonna blow. Ah! Yes, I see. I guess it does make sense that someone would pass out. Especially if the person in question is Mr. Starbuck. Anyway. I didn't kill Clay. I was trying to save him. Don't worry, I understand. I'll make sure everything turns out alright. Everyone's glaring at me like I did it. Although you have to reassure him better than that. How am I supposed to do that? Try to imagine how he's feeling and use that to figure out how to boost his confidence. Mr. Starbuck, think back to what Clay used to always say. It's times like these when he would repeat, "I'm fine," to himself. I'm fine. Yeah, I guess he did say that a lot. But even if I shout it, Clay will still be dead. What's the use? Now even Apollo's doing it. Would you please reassure me now? Apollo, there's something strange about Mr. Starbuck's testimony. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's a glaring contradiction. I just wonder why it's there and what it means for our case. Doesn't look like he's lying, at least. Guess I'll have to show some evidence.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, I need your testimony to be as accurate as possible. Was I not being accurate? No, because it's impossible for you to have taken the elevator down to the middle level. Makes you say that, Mr. Justice. Please recall where the bomb went off in Launchpad 1. Also recall that after the explosion, the middle level elevator was engulfed in flames. Oh, you're right. Which means... Exactly. The Launchpad's elevator would have been unusable. In other words... Mr. Starbuck, your statement is decidedly inconsistent with the facts. What's with the helmet? Mission Command, do you read me? Come in, please.
Objection!
This is Mission Command. I order you to pay attention. Stop this nonsense and answer my questions, Mr. Starbuck. My helmet. Oxygen tank. Oxygen concentration and body temperature declining, requesting medical assistance. Mr. Starbuck, we are not in space right now. Please stop pretending you've lost consciousness and stand back up. I apologize, Your Honor. I forgot I was still on Earth. I feel like we all just got a real glimpse of Solomon Starbuck, the astronaut. Yeah, he seemed more like an astronaut now than when he was doing all that sighing. Mr. Starbuck, could you please explain the inconsistency in your statement about how you use the middle level elevator? I was nervous and I said the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I actually took a different route, I think. Different route? I hope you're able to deliver a straight story this time. I'll get it right this time. Maybe. No, I mean probably. Probably? It's understandable to be nervous, but let me remind you, accuracy is paramount in court. Let's see. My escape route, what I said before was a mistake. I remember now. I took a different route. Maybe, probably, with the capsule and play in my arms, I made my way down from the upper level. Down a ladder? A ladder that spans the upper and middle levels. Use that ladder to get to the middle level. Luckily the fire hadn't reached the ladder, so we could make our escape that way. The capsule you mentioned. Suppose you read the thing next to Mr. Terran here. The capsule that important that you'd risk your life to take it with you? It almost goes without saying, but yeah, that capsule contains asteroid samples. Therefore, it's invaluable as research material. With the spacesuit on, Clay weighed a ton, but securing the capsule was also important. I need you to answer to the best of your ability. Mr. Starbuck, please remember that your verdict is writing on your testimony. Maybe I am guilty after all. I wonder if you can see the stars in prison. That's more comfortable than a spaceship.
Hold it!
Making mistakes is a basic fact. Hey, everybody makes mistakes, but try thinking about the vastness of space instead. From Earth, it takes 4 light years to travel to our nearest neighboring star. So you see, compared to the vast expanse of space, human error is insignificant. I should consider it just a little more insignificant than 0. Enough jabbering. Get on with your testimony.
Hold it!
Maybe, probably. Did I hear you right, Mr. Starbuck? I didn't say either of those things. Mission Control, come in please. An error has occurred in the sound system. Activate the emergency tin can telephone. Oh no! Tin can telephones are ineffective in the vacuum of space.
Silence!
Stop this nonsense or I will sever you and your tin can telephone. Alright, I'm begging you. I'll tell the truth. Just don't sever anything. Although, is he gonna be alright? I'm starting to think he's not. Let's see. So about when we were running away.
Hold it!
The upper level of the launch pad area? That's right. That's what I said, isn't it? Granted, that route does exist. So to recap, you had clay over your right shoulder and the capsule in your left hand? Yeah, it's really important, so I couldn't let it go burned up. So even though clay was really heavy, I couldn't afford to carry him with both hands. I did the best I could with him over one shoulder, and the capsule in my other hand. And thus you had no hands left with which to hold the only way down from the upper platform, the ladder. Yes, I do know what I have to do with that statement. Yeah, the characters in this game are something else. Also hate Tormuse. Yes, I know. Well, I've come this far. No turning back now. It's time to present some evidence. Mr. Starbuck escaped with clay in the capsule, which means it's just like in the footage. I can see why he couldn't run, though. Must have weighed over 200 pounds just by himself. Yeah, and he had to support Clay, who was another 200 pounds. Plus, he had to ensure the safety of that capsule. I don't think I could have even walked under those circumstances. Walking straight forward is probably about all I would have been able to manage. To make sure it's not that one.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, why don't you just tell the truth? The truth? Let's see. The Earth is blue. No, that's not right. So, I guess the Earth isn't blue? Yeah, that's it. The truth, Mr. Starbuck. Oxygen concentration is super low in this area. Prepare the emergency oxygen tanks. Yeah, let's get the truth out of him. The circumstances at the time, you couldn't possibly have reached the boarding lounge via the upper level route. Huh? Not as long as this was along the escape route. Yeah, a ladder that you need hands to climb with. Get down from the upper level to the middle level where the launch pad 1 corridor is. You would have had to go down the ladder. Isn't that right, Mr. Starbuck? Of course, that was the only way we could escape.
Objection!
But how would that work? At the time, you were supporting Mr. Terran over your shoulder, were you not? And remember, he was in full space gear as well, putting him at over 200 pounds. Well, it's easy on the moon. Gravity is only 1/6 of what it is on Earth.
Objection!
The Space Center is located on Earth. Short of being an octopus, climbing a ladder with an adult male in space gear is one arm, while carrying the capsule in your other is impossible, wouldn't you say? Oh. So, Mr. Starbuck, how exactly did you climb down that ladder with your arms full? Mr. Starbuck, come clean and tell us the truth, now. Yeah, assuming you saw me playing the 4th game, the 5th one is where they went from the DS to the 3DS. So there's a lot more 3D animation stuff in this one. Ha. Yeah. Falling is easy. It's that sudden hard stop at the end that's the problem. Oxygen leak detected due to faulty maintenance. Evacuated. What the? He's flying the coop. Help! I'm caught on the ceiling. Help? Anyone? Bailiff, prepare the cherry picker. We must launch our rescue mission at once. Well, that's one way to take off while being questioned. I'd rather prove his innocence so he can go to space again someday for real. Now then, Mr. Starbuck, do you think you can keep your feet planted on the ground? Yes, I apologize for losing control. Yeah, of course, you know, to get all of the cherries out of the trees of the courtroom. Are you ready to tell us the truth? Not that anything but that. What is going on? This isn't the Mr. Starbuck I know. It appears Space Boy is prone to deception. Witness. Yikes. Yes. I thought your story odd, but perhaps the inconsistencies can be explained as the result of a medical side effect? Prosecutor Blackwell, please don't talk about that. What are you talking about, Prosecutor Blackwell? Didn't I already state that Space Boy is ironically terrified of going to space? That's why I took some precautions just before the launch. For you see, traces of this anti-anxiety drug were found in his system. Oh, I sense that things are about to nosedive. You got it all wrong. I told him during the investigation, too. I don't know anything about any drugs. I never took any medication, I swear. It's found in his system, but he doesn't remember taking it. How could that be? Somebody must have slipped them to me. But I guess maybe that's why I don't remember? Because of the side effects? Yeah, that's why I don't remember much about what really happened. Just one disaster after another. Can't get any useful testimony out of him if he doesn't remember anything. Well, this certainly explains why his testimony kept changing. Ugh. Why didn't he just tell me he couldn't remember? I guess he didn't want anybody to find out he was terrified of going into space. Maybe I really did do it. Which brings us to the answer of our original question, of how the witness climbed down the ladder with a dead body. It does? So what is it? A dead man feels no pain and makes no complaints, Justice to... Yeah, I guess he could have just dropped the... But if he dropped him, there would have been signs of blunt force trauma. Like, even a dead body could still get banged up from being dropped several dozen feet. And then the defendant could climb down with his free hand.
Objection!
Drop the body down? Who would do such a disrespectable thing? Besides, dropping the body down would leave marks on the body itself. So you're capable of quick thinking. Yes, you are correct. Really? Oh, thanks? What's this? The oxygen tank from the victim's spacesuit. It's ruptured, and I'm sure you can figure out why. You can't be implying it ruptured when the defendant dropped the victim's body. I am, for they fracture easily when struck.
Objection!
Even if that's true, the tank's explosion and shrapnel would leave its mark on the body. Yet according to the autopsy report, only the knife wound was found on the victim's body. Clearly grasping at straws with this line of reasoning.
Silence!
Spacesuit isn't heavy for the sake of being heavy, Justice Snow. includes the latest technological devices and made of pure fabric of tomorrow. This fabric is made to protect astronauts from the dangers of space, so falling a few Earth yards would hardly make... Okay, this isn't like a few yards. This is like... It looks like at least 30 feet.
Objection!
Should it be impossible to stab someone through it as well? It should, and yet through sheer coincidence. The knife slipped through a weak spot in the structure and found its way to its... Really? What are the chances? Forget that our killer is an astronaut himself with knowledge of how the suits work. It's gotta be there. And now my full argument has been proven. Space Boy killed the victim in the rocket and then dropped his body from the upper level. After climbing down, he shouldered the body and made sure the camera recorded them. There's no room for debate about these facts. It's clear that Solomon Starbuck is the only one who could have killed Clay Terran. Oh boy. Here, the report regarding the astronauts' oxygen tanks. Consider it my send-off gift. Feel free to use it as payment to cross the river Styx. The figure's rupture with 0% left. The defendants had 80% remaining oxygen is displayed on the left shoulder. So the victim had 0% and the defendant had 80%. Hey, this report is pretty detailed. Yeah, I'm wondering if it has something to do with that. It's my astronaut's left shoulder. Astronaut's left shoulder is the oxygen remaining. Yeah, but that one says 50. Done for. Going to prison instead of space. Space Boy. Yes? Take heart. The bejeweled night sky is still beautiful even when viewed through bars. You mean the stars as seen from prison? That's right, gal. That's alright. Your cell phone will be your space... That's right. Your self will be your spaceship. Picture the view through the iron bars. Yeah. It's like being an astronaut in your own craft for all time. Oh boy. It's not a half bad thought. Mr. Yeah, that hawk is, causes no end of trouble for us. But he's friendly to Simon. Spaceship prison cell, fly me, my guilt and my despair into the deepest, darkest space. And then, let's get sucked into a black hole together.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, you can't give up hope. Oh. Yes, Apollo. You know, Clay really looked up to you. He said you're an incredible man. He said you'd never give up your dreams and passion for space, no matter the situation. He said that? So don't give up now and help me prove your innocence. For the sake of the man who respected you and believed in you, Clay Terran. For Clay. You're wasting your breath. Rah. 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 Apollo, thank you. I can see things clearly now. Mr. Starbuck. I'm fine now. Thanks for reminding me of my life's mission. Right. We'll both be fine. I'll prove you're innocent. You'll see. And after that, we'll get you back into space. I don't know. I assume it's some kind of, like, NASA-like acronym. But no idea what it stands for. If this isn't a court record anywhere. Doesn't seem to be. I can't read anything on the evacuation report. Rah! You've ignited the booster rockets of my soul. On fire. Solomon Starbuck, astronaut, cosmic hero chosen by the universe itself. No time to be whimpering and crying. I can't let you and Clay down. Balderdash. The sun, the moon, all of space is calling me, Solomon Saul Starbuck. Ready for launch. Begin the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off. Okay, buddy. For a second, I thought he was starting to lift off the ground. Then I realized he was just standing on his tiptoes. I feel like I've witnessed an actual rocket launch. Apollo, you did it. Broke Prosecutor Blackwell's grip over Mr. Starbuck. Yeah, I don't know, man. Weird stuff happens in this game. Can't take the credit. It's all Mr. Starbuck. He pulled himself through. You simpletons are done massaging each other's egos. No matter how positive your mood, my advantage remains unshakable. I have but to wait for the final guilty verdict. Isn't that right, your baldness? Yeah, can't let it up now. I have to stop Blackwell. He has to see this through. Mr. Starbuck just has to make it back into space. I won't allow Clay's dream to remain unfulfilled. Yeah. It does feel like the goofiness has been upped a level or two in this game. But I know it's never been super serious. I guess it's just a matter of finding the right balance. Gotta destroy Blackwell's argument somehow. Think, Justice, think. The only two people at Launchpad 1 were Clay and Mr. Starbuck. And if Clay was already dead by the time this footage was taken, the only person who could have killed him is Mr. Starbuck. So the only way to counter Blackwell's argument is if I can prove that Clay was still alive when they arrived at the boarding lounge. In which case I should be able to find some contradiction in the evidence itself. Well, let's see, about this data that we just received. Supposedly proved that Mr. Starbuck dropped Clay's body in Launchpad 1. But if I'm going to prove that false, then there must be something I can use there. One moment. Alright, I'm back.
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, you seem to be in quite a hurry to rush to the verdict. But about this oxygen tank data you submitted just now, it says that Mr. Starbuck's tank had 80% remaining while Mr. Terran's had 0. Do you stand by the accuracy of this report? Of course. Then I guess it simply means that it's faulty as evidence goes. You will explain what you mean, Justice Deneau. It's simple. This evidence contradicts the facts of this case. Take a look here at the detailed description and you'll see what I mean. I hope you have some evidence, Mr. Justice, because I don't see what's so contradictory. Yeah, there's literally the security cam picture.
Take that!
And how does this evidence present a contradiction? Problem is this part here.
Take that!
Note the remaining oxygen in Mr. Starbuck's tank as he carries Mr. Terran. It appears to say 50. Yes, but according to the data, our client's tank had 80% remaining. Oxygen tank increased? I see Your Honor finds it as strange as I do. It's bad enough that there's a contradiction, but the increase in oxygen is beyond illogical. Oh my, you're absolutely right. What is going on here?
Silence!
I too find it odd that the oxygen remaining has increased. It would be as odd as if my rations were to increase. But what does it prove? It doesn't change the fact that it is the defendant carrying the victim's corpse.
Objection!
I'm going to bet you don't get more rations because you don't abide by the rules. Either way, the oxygen remaining shouldn't increase, just as your rations don't increase. Therefore, this new information is critical. We can't overlook it.
Silence!
In that case, do you have an answer to this riddle of the mysteriously increasing oxygen? Yeah. The answer is actually fairly straightforward. In that, up until they enter the lounge, we've really only had this confused guy's testimony as to what happened. And it's easily explained, considering that the guy... there's not really anything else you can tell from this one. But basically, the idea is that it's the other way around. It's not the defendant carrying the victim, it's the victim carrying the defendant. No, it's not a simple malfunction. Of course I can. Thing to do at a time like this is to turn my thinking around. Yep. He has no memory of it, but he claims to have carried clay. The 50 on his tank ought to be Mr. Starbuck, but if anything, the display on his oxygen tank should have shown an 80. There's a clear contradiction between the report and the security footage. So what I should be asking is not, why did the oxygen level increase? What had to have happened to make it look like it increased? Am I making some kind of mistake in my base assumptions here? Yeah. Yep. That would explain it. As you can see, Your Honor, both men had their helmets on in this footage. Yeah, it turns out this is where our base assumptions went astray. We assumed that it was Mr. Starbuck helping Mr. Terran, but it was the other way around. It wasn't Mr. Starbuck helping Mr. Terran at all. It's Mr. Terran who's helping Mr. Starbuck to the boring lounge. Yeah. You mean to tell me that the person on the right in this image is the victim, Clay Terran? It's the only way the riddle of the increasing oxygen level can be solved, Your Honor. At this point in time, the remaining oxygen in the victim's tank was at 50%. And when the victim was found in the boarding lounge, his tank was at 0%. I was gonna say maybe like when it stabbed his suit, maybe it hit like an oxygen line when it went through. There's nothing contradictory about the oxygen level decreasing. This means Mr. Terran was alive as they made their escape to the lounge.
Silence!
How short your memory is. Have you forgotten what you yourself proposed? Even if the victim was alive at this point in time, how did he send the ladder with his arms full?
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, you can't hurt me with a broken blade. Excuse me? It's true that we don't know how they got down the ladder. Suppose that matter needs further investigating. We have proven that Mr. Terran was alive when he reached the boarding lounge. This fact alone shatters your claims, and opens up the possibility that the victim could have been killed by a third party. There were two people who claimed to be the first on the scene. Can we truly trust their statements? Let's see. The two people were Detective Candace Arm and Yuri Cosmos, right? I think that one of them might have given a false statement to the police. It's certainly possible. We might have to do a little more digging. It seems we'll have to hear the testimony of these first two people on the scene. Come to think of it, Detective Arm should be here in court right now. Bailiff, could you please show Detective Arm to the stand? This guy. Yeah. It's just kind of how it goes in this game. An announcement, everyone. What's the meaning of this? We're in the middle of a trial here. Please remain calm and listen carefully. Someone has reactivated the bomb. The bomb was defused, but it's about to explode. Explode? Bomb now. Everybody run. And we'll die. Oh no, everybody's panicking.
Silence!
Endless chickens with a death wish, the lot of you. Kill them yourselves before all else. Come on, Apollo, let's get out of here. What about Mr. Starbuck's dream, and who will carry out Clay's final wish? I don't care what happens to me. I'm not letting some bomb blow up the truth forever. I refuse to let things end here. Apollo, this is no time to be dramatic. If we don't get out of here now, we're gonna die. Come on, this way. Hey, ouch, let me go. Juniper? She hasn't evacuated yet? Eek. Juniper, are you alright? Apollo, no, not that way. And that's when he went to rescue her and got injured, and leading up to the... I don't know if you were here for the first case of this game, but we actually already know what happens after this point. If you want to go back and watch the first couple of streams, it's basically this was the first case of this game was that in the middle of another trial, like the idea is that in the middle of the trial a bomb went off, and that they were trying to determine who murdered the Detective Candace, presumably in the explosion. And that guy in the police uniform was also involved. And basically, yeah, all of that stuff leads up to what happens in the first case. So we're basically back up to the beginning. Yeah. But I think I'm going to call it here, because I've been going for a bit today, and voice is getting tired. I think I'm going to need to call it a night pretty soon, so... But yeah, I definitely recommend going back and watching the previous streams when you get a chance, or the previous VODs, because it seems like all of this stuff is finally starting to tie together. I was kind of wondering, because we did the first case and it put a lot of stuff out there, and then the next two cases kind of hinted at it. The third one a little more so. But now it seems like we're finally starting to get into like what is going on, and the main plot of what's been happening since the previous game. And it seems like we'll eventually get into stuff related to Athena, but especially what's happened with Apollo and why he's the way he is. We'll see what happens. But for now, I think that's going to be it for tonight. If I do get the chance to stream tomorrow, it'll probably be the usual, later in the evening. But we'll see what happens. Either way, thank you. Thanks for coming out and watching. Like I said, recommend definitely looking through a lot. This game it's definitely got its quirks, but it's still been fun so far. So, I'm still having a good time. So we'll see how it goes next time. But until then, have a good evening and take care and good night.